On a Wednesday evening in July 2025, the most expensive thing at Tomorrowland caught fire. It was the main stage, the structure the entire festival is built around. 45 meters tall, 160 meters wide, nearly 2 years in the making. 1,000 people were working the site when it went up. The sound system alone that burned was worth around 4 million euros, and the gates were due to open in under 48 hours. 70,000 people a day, sold out for months, a lot of them already sitting on flights to Belgium. So you know how this story is supposed to go. Cancellation, refunds, a disaster written straight into the company's accounts. Instead, 2025 became the biggest year Tomorrowland had ever had. 305.7 million euros in revenue, 32.5 million euros in profit. Both records in the year the main stage burned to the ground, 2 days before the doors opened. How? The obvious answer is the ticket. Tomorrowland is famous for charging a lot to get in. In 2026, a full Madness Pass, the full run of the festival, is 400 euros at the worldwide price. And the number everyone quotes is 400,000 people. 400,000 times a few hundred euros each. That sounds like the whole story right there. It isn't. It isn't even close. Start with the real capacity, not the marketing line. About 70,000 people a day, 6 festival days across the 2 weekends. Fill every single slot with a regular 3-day pass, and you're looking at somewhere in the region of 46 to 64 million euros in tickets. Now hold that against the group's revenue for the year, 305.7 million euros. So even on a generous reading, the thing everyone thinks of as the product, the ticket, accounts for maybe a sixth of the money. 5 out of every 6 euros come from somewhere else. The question is where? And the answer is that Tomorrowland stopped being a company that sells tickets a long time ago. Now, I need to be straight with you about those numbers, because Tomorrowland makes them slippery. That 400,000 people figure, it's not 400,000 different human beings. At 70,000 a day, a lot of that is the same person counted across 3 days on a single pass. It's attendance, not headcount. And that 305.7 million euros isn't the whole picture either. Or rather, it's a bigger picture than one you'll also see quoted. Because there are 2 Tomorrowland revenues sitting in 2 different filings, and both are correct. One is the Belgian company that actually runs the festival, 145.85 million euros. The other is the wider group sitting on top of it, 305.7 million euros. Same brand, 2 sets of books, a 160 million euro gap between them. That gap isn't an accounting quirk, it's the entire business. So let's climb into it. To understand the gap, you have to go back to before there was a Tomorrowland at all, to the moment the founders learned the most expensive lesson in the business. In the late 1990s, 2 brothers, Manu and Michel Beers, threw a scout party in Belgium. About 500 people showed up, and the thing they took away from it wasn't the music, it was the demand, the realization that people would come and pay if you gave them the party. So they started running events, and one of them worked. A crowd of 12,000 people, a genuinely profitable night. And at the end of it, the brothers were bankrupt. Not because the event lost money, because they didn't control the money. An informal partner held the ticket takings and the bar, while the invoices came to them. In Michel's own words, "We were bankrupt." The first Tomorrowland, in 2005, was 1 day and about 10,000 people, small. But from then on, the strategy was never really about the party. It was about owning every euro that moves around it. And once you see it that way, the festival stops looking like a festival and starts looking like a funnel. So you've bought the scarce ticket. For most festivals, that's where the company's involvement ends. How you actually get there is your problem, not here. Because the moment you've committed to coming, Tomorrowland sells you the journey too. It's called Global Journey, and in 2026, it moved 50,000 people to Belgium from 165 countries. Sit with that second number for a second. 165 countries is more than the United Nations has full members. This is a festival with a foreign arrivals operation, and it runs like one. Nearly 25,000 of those travelers flew in with a single airline partner, Brussels Airlines, across 409 flights. 7 of them were dedicated party flights. The party starts in the air before you've even landed. More than 9,000 people came by train, over 10,000 by bus, booked through the same funnel. Here's the scale of it. Global Journey handles 50,000 customers, and a single day of the festival only holds 70,000. So, Tomorrowland's travel agency is now nearly 3/4 the size of the festival itself. You haven't slept yet, and you've already paid them twice. Now you need somewhere to sleep, and Tomorrowland would very much like to sell you that too. The festival runs a temporary city next to the site called Dreamville, and more than 38,000 people live in it every weekend. That's over half the daily crowd sleeping inside the operation. It opens Thursday and closes Monday, which quietly turns a 3-day event into a 5-day stay. 5 days inside a place where nearly everything you can buy, they sell. But the clever part is the latter. Everyone at Dreamville is at the same festival, watching the same acts. The only thing that changes is where you sleep, and the price of that runs a very long way. At the bottom, a basic camping spot, around €90 a person on top of your ticket. A patch of ground and a tent you pitch yourself. Climb up. An easy tent already built for you. A couple of €100 ahead. Keep going. A relax room. A cabana, where the accommodation alone works out to roughly €962 per person. For the same festival, same music, same days. Just a better place to lie down at the end of the night. So, Tomorrowland has taken the one thing that's identical for every single guest, the party, and built a price ladder on top of it that runs from €90 to nearly 1,000 per person before you've bought a single drink, which conveniently is the next thing they sell you. Inside the festival, your euros don't work. To buy anything, a drink, food, water, you first have to convert your money into Tomorrowland's own currency, called pearls. In 2026, one pearl costs €1.90. Everything on site is priced in pearls, which means everything on site is priced in a unit you had to buy from them first. And the system is built to make you buy it up front. You can load up to €1,000 onto your wristband before you arrive, and small bonuses reward you for loading more. The bonus itself is almost beside the point. A handful of pearls. What it's really doing is getting you to pre-commit hundreds of euros into a closed currency before you've bought a single thing. Because here's the catch. Any bonus pearls you were given aren't refundable, and even on the real pearls you paid for, cashing out what you didn't spend costs you a fee. 2 pearls, just under €4, to get your own money back. So a chunk of every wristband is designed to stay on the wristband. Not spent, not refunded, just kept. And they're doing this across the whole site. Take a conservative €75 a head, a day, on food and drink. That's roughly €31 million in spending, moved through a currency they control, across the 2 weekends. By now, you've paid Tomorrowland to get there, paid them to sleep, and paid them in their own money to eat. And you are still not the most valuable thing in the field. Everything so far has treated you, the person in the field, as the customer. Here's where that flips. Because in 2025, while 70,000 people stood in front of the stages, 74 million more watched from their phones. Tomorrowland's live streams pulled a global audience more than 1,000 times the size of the crowd that actually paid to be there. And that changes what the crowd is for. The 70,000 people aren't just customers anymore. They're the set. They're the thing that makes 74 million people watch. The scenery, the energy, the sold-out spectacle that a camera can point at. Which is exactly what Tomorrowland sells to sponsors. Look closely, and the festival's landmarks aren't named by Tomorrowland at all. There's a stage called Freedom, presented by Budweiser. A stage called Melodia by Corona. The whole site is threaded with brands: Coca-Cola, BMW, JBL, Brussels Airlines, woven into the architecture itself. A sponsor's logo on a normal billboard is seen by the people walking past it. A sponsor's stage at Tomorrowland is seen by 70,000 people in the field, and then by 74 million more in the live stream, in the after movie, in every clip a DJ posts for the next 12 months. The company won't say what those deals are worth, and nobody sensible would guess, but you can see why brands line up. Tomorrowland isn't selling them a crowd. It's selling them the most watched party on Earth, built out of 70,000 people who paid for the privilege of becoming the show. So go back to the ticket, the €400 pass, the thing everyone thinks Tomorrowland is selling. It was never the product. It was the key. Look at what it actually does. It's scarce. 70,000 a day, sold out in minutes. And that scarcity is the engine for everything else. Because the ticket is nearly impossible to get, you'll fly across the world for it. So they sell you the flight. You'll stay 4 nights next to the site, so they sell you the bed at anything up to €1,000. You'll load hundreds of euros onto a wristband before you arrive, so they hold your money in their own currency. And you'll turn up and become the spectacle. So they sell you to 74 million viewers and a wall of sponsors. Every one of those only works because the ticket is hard to get. Make the festival bigger, sell 1 million tickets, and you'd kill the very scarcity that makes people fly. Stay, preload, and watch. So they don't. They cap it. The 70,000 isn't a limit they're stuck with. It's the whole strategy. The ticket, in other words, is the least valuable thing Tomorrowland sells you. It's just the one thing you have to buy before they can sell you everything else. And now, the fire makes sense. Here's the problem with a machine like this. Almost all of it has to be paid for before a single guest walks in. The stages are built. The 800+ artists are booked. The 15,000 workers are hired. The flights chartered. The temporary city assembled. Tomorrowland has spent enormous amounts of money. And at that point, it has taken in ticket sales, but the flights, the beds, the drinks, the sponsor spectacle only pay off if the festival actually happens. The whole model front-loads the cost and back-loads the reward, which means the danger isn't a bad year, it's a canceled one. And they've lived it? COVID wiped out 2 editions and cost the company around 13.6 million euros. Years earlier, their American festival, Tomorrowland, was drowned by rain and then killed off when its financial backer went bankrupt. Proof that the whole thing can collapse even when the brand is strong. The costs are committed. The revenue is a promise. Now, put the fire back in that frame. The main stage burns on the Wednesday. Every euro is already spent. The first weekend's crowd, tens of thousands of people, is already on its way to Belgium. Cancel, and you don't just lose the ticket money. You lose the flights, the beds, the pearls, the sponsors, all of it. And you refund a mountain of it on top. That's why they rebuilt a replacement stage in under 48 hours, not to save the show, to save the machine behind it. Step back from Belgium and you can see what they actually built. The same machine now runs in the mountains, Tomorrowland Winter, in the French Alps. It runs in South America. The 2025 Brazil edition drew more than 180,000 people. In 2026, it lands in Asia for the first time, in Thailand, aiming for 150,000. The festival isn't an event anymore, it's a format, one they can drop into a ski resort, a Brazilian park, a Thai coastline, and switch on. And back home, they've quietly bolted it to the ground. The founders say they've put around 40 million euros into their Belgian site over the years, and they've locked in the right to use it for 66 years. A festival built entirely out of temporary stages has secured its home until nearly the end of the century. Which brings us back to that Wednesday in July. For a normal festival, losing the main stage 2 days before opening is the end. For Tomorrowland, it was a stress test. The stage, the actual concert, turned out to be one replaceable part of a machine that also flies people in, houses them, feeds them in its own currency, sells the crowd to the world, and books the same trick in 3 other countries. They lost the centerpiece and still had the best year in their history. Because at Tomorrowland, the show was never the thing they were really selling. 74 million people watched Tomorrowland from a screen last year. If you're going to be one of them, you might as well watch this too. So subscribe, and I'll break down the economics of the machine behind the next thing you thought you understood.